All right. Good morning. Good morning. Or afternoon, evening. It's been a long day. Good evening, everybody. We are here at the Reliable Representation Talk Show. We got a very special guest. We're not going to tell y'all who the special guest is. You got to hang out to see who it is. We got a very special guest, someone running for office. I'm not going to tell you what office either because you might be able to guess if I tell you that. But it feels good to be back. I've been out for 2 weeks. All right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Reliable Representation Talk Show. It is definitely a pleasure to be back here with y'all. I've been out for 2 weeks, but I am back. And can you say hello to everybody, Miss Brittany over there?
Hello, Hines County.
All right. That's all you got to say is hello. You can say nothing else.
Go ahead on with your rundown today. You just get back, got your new clothes on.
Yeah, I had to jump clean, y'all. I've been out and about. So I've been in Nashville, Tennessee. Went to a conference of surrounding education. And so I've spent a few days up in Nashville. Got back this morning, been on the go. We had State Fire Academy graduation today. We graduated some new firefighters here in the state.
Ooh.
One of them, which is coming to Byram, Mississippi. And guess what? He had a perfect GPA, had the highest GPA in the whole class.
Mm,
So, see, we're working with greatness down there in Byram.
I
So,
think he made it cheap.
a huge shout out to all of our our elected officials down in Byram for making sure that we have good people, in these positions. After that, guess where I got to go?
Where did you take a field trip to?
I took a field trip over to Jackson Evers International Airport. So we went on a tour today of the airport, just kind of looked at some projects that they've been working on, as well as some new projects that they're going to be, working on in the future. And after that, I went all the way over to the Capitol. And so we have the select committee for Jackson revitalization. We had another meeting, had a hearing today where we brought in the mayor, health department, and a few other people because we're trying to do what we can to get Jackson back on the right track. And I'll fill y'all in on all of that later because I could take a few hours up talking about that.
Oh, really?
And now I'm here at the Reliable Representation Talk Show. And after I leave here, I'm going to the
I
Byron
was gonna
Board
say
of
you already he
Alderman.
got about three more things on his agenda for today. So
Yeah, so feels good to be here though at my next to the last stop for the day.
that's
Yeah,
today, you all. Tomorrow will probably be about 12 more things.
you never know. Hey, I want to say good evening to Miss Mary Briley from Columbus. I was going to say Cincinnati, from Columbus, Ohio. Miss Briley gonna get me if I say the wrong thing, but thank you so much for tuning in, Miss Briley.
So, church announcements, you all. Listen, what's going on with New York City's mayor? I saw that and I was so just, I don't know. I can't put it into words the way I'm feeling. So,
If it's not yours, don't bother it. That's what my mom used to always tell me. And
okay.
so people got to stop messing with money that doesn't belong. When it's taxpayer money, you got to stop messing with it.
All right, then.
Yeah.
All right. Well, SWAC Athletics, the Jackson State, we got to get back on it. We down too. So, we need a win bad this weekend in Houston. So we need you all to go and play great and come on back and bring that win. Gospel Mega Fest. Oh my God, it was remarkable. I'm quite certain you've seen pictures on Facebook.
Yes.
It was remarkable. Shout out to J&J Productions. You all did an amazing, amazing job. So definitely want to say thank you all for allowing me and to be a part of it and others to be a part of that remarkable event on this past Saturday.
I'm going to move back again to Jackson State. They actually were flying out today to Houston. We were at the airport. I didn't get a chance to see them though. They
Really?
told us after the fest, they go to Jackson State and the plane was taking off. I'm like, why you didn't tell us before when you saw? So they were headed there, but they're going to tear Texas Southern up. So I have to throw that in there.
Okay. Second attempt on our former president. Second attempt of assassination. He's been assassinated.
Oh yeah, that's old news. When that happened about a
But
week
still,
ago.
you hadn't been here, so we haven't discussed it, so it's not old news.
Yeah, I did see that, and that is slowly unfolding. I just don't understand how a person can really. I didn't understand how the first time how someone could get on top of a building with a rifle and target target someone under Secret Service protection. First, secondly, the second time, I don't see how he could get that close to the golf course without them having a perimeter established. And so I just I don't understand that.
Me, that's a little baffling. Also, Kamala, I saw that someone tried, or not tried to, they made an attack on her establishment in Arizona, I believe.
I didn't hear that. What happened with her?
I think they tried to set something on fire or something, but we're gonna have to get all the details. But I just saw a flash of that information as well. So I think it's getting
You,
really nasty now.
and the thing about it in politics is not any room for violence. Even if you don't agree with a candidate, don't go out and try to attack them violently. Just go out and vote. Go out and vote. Okay, they shot into a campaign. I just got it. They shot into a campaign office, I guess,
Okay.
for
In
Kamala
Arizona.
in Arizona.
Okay, I knew it was something.
Hey,
Okay.
Hey, send a shout out to Miss Darlene Wilson. But yeah, so they shot into a campaign office. So it's just this shows right now, and I was having this conversation a few days ago about how polarizing politics has become. You can't say, "Oh, I support this candidate or that candidate," without getting into an argument with somebody, and it's just not worth it. Let people support who it is they want to support. I mean, and stop with all this foolishness.
I agree. I co-sign. Ward 2 candidate forum is going on tonight. At Stronger Hope from 6 to 8 p.m. I'm told. So if you live in Ward 2, I definitely highly recommend, suggest all those good words, adjectives. Go out to see who you all will be selecting as your next representative. I know that there's Dr. Catherine Robinson, Miss Celestial Gordon, Mr. Brian Mosey, I think Mrs. Cheryl Matori, Miss Tina Clay, Brian Mosey. I think that's about it. I think it's five. That was five names. So you all definitely try to get out to hear what they have to say, so you can make an informed decision about voting.
And what's ironic about this election, by being a special election, so they'll win, and whoever wins has to run for re-election again next year. So,
Wow.
So they'll only be serving out a few months, and so I can imagine having to campaign two times like that in that short span of time. But I just Ward 2, please go out and cast your vote for the right candidate, because we need help, and when we're trying to appropriate funding from the state, we have to have a city council we can work with. If we don't have a city council that we can work with, it's going to make our jobs a little harder. Government works together. It's no just one person in government that can do anything. So y'all, please go and send us a good person that we can work with to make our city better.
Yeah, mayoral candidate forum. I think that is tonight. I've heard mixed messages. I heard there was a town hall, then I heard it's a forum. So I'm not 100% certain, but I do know that's going on as well today at Greater Pearly Grove. So if you have some time, stop by there. It'll be going on to 8 p.m. so that you can hear about your mayoral candidates. Unfortunately, they don't qualify until January, so it's kind of early for a forum. However, if you just want to go and talk and find out what their plans are, I think that would be a great suggestion or idea, just to visit Great Pearly Grove this evening.
Yeah, so forum or whatever it is, they're going to be there talking. So just show up.
Just show up.
Show up. They're going to be talking. So yeah, definitely, it's important that that people are informed when going out to vote, and when you're informed, you can hold your people accountable, because you can say when you're on the campaign trail, you told them you were going to do this and you're not doing that. But if you're not informed, you don't know what they say on the campaign trail. You can't argue with them. And so I think that's important to go out there and get involved in the process.
Yes, we didn't give out any condolences, but definitely condolences to any family that is experiencing bereavement. That is, grief is hard, death is hard. But just know that God always knows best. I'm very, very sad. And I did not know the young lady who was killed earlier this week that was 58 years old. She was stabbed to death in her home in South Jackson. And that's very, very heartbreaking that someone is at their home, their domicile, where they pay taxes at, residing, and someone takes their life. That's very heartbreaking.
That is, and I just heard about that today, because I've been out of town, but I want to follow up on that story and kind of get some insight as to what happened. Because was she coming home in a car or something?
No, I heard she was already at home, and whomever came there,
they took her car.
Yeah, took her car.
Okay, I did see bits and pieces. Yeah, that's sad. I mean, there's so much going on around us, and for you to be, like you said, in your home, that's your sanctuary.
Right.
You're in your home. They said you can't have peace at home. You can't have peace anywhere. Mm-hmm. And somebody coming in your house, and that's not where it is. So we definitely have a lot of work to do to bring our community back around, and our prayers go out to her family and the rest of the community as well.
Yeah, I had Carly Gregg on the list, but we're gonna wait until we have our candidates for judge here, because I want to ask them their thoughts about Carly.
Oh wow, yeah, that was
a very sad story.
a very sad story. Well, I am happy that the state did do their due diligence as far as having psychiatrists come out, and the psychiatrist determined that she was not mentally insane when she committed that act of violence and killed her mother. And so I'm happy that they did do the due diligence and and making sure that they really looked into it. But that's a sad story. And you think about this young lady is in prison for the rest of her life at such an early age, and so yeah, we are. But we've been hearing other stories. There was another person in another state, another mother was killed by her child in another state, and so we're seeing things like that on the rise. And so I don't know what's causing.
The money, satanic.
Yeah, you're right. That's all that it could be.
Mm-hmm.
For somebody to kill a parent. And it's ironic because I've been watching the story of the Menendez brothers on Netflix.
Oh wow!
And they just had a documentary that just came out on that story, and so it's been really interesting, and watching that. Heartbreaking, but still interesting. But yeah.
Well, I'm done with the announcements, you all. I hope that I've given you all enough to go research, think about, call in about.
Okay, so
share.
Ready for the next part of the show?
It's in your hands.
All right, so introduce our special guest who we have joining us tonight. I'm gonna bring him on up.
So you all, we have a young man who is about to serve as the next school board member of Hinds County Public School District, and that's none other than Mr. George Stewart. But Fabian to give the fanfare introduction.
All right, everybody. So we have in the studio with us today Mr. George Stewart. He's running for Hinds County School District. Is it District 2?
3.
District 3. That's right, Stewart for 3. Running for District 3, Hinds County not Board of Supervisors, Hinds County School Board. And so he's just going to tell us a little bit about his platform and what's going on and why it's so important to get out there and vote for school board members.
Well, first of all, thank you all again for having me on. It's a great, it's always great to be on with you all. And I was here yesterday. I'm going to say it again today, how excited I am because as I mentioned that this is, well, I've been living in Hinds County over 11 years. And this is the first time since I've been living in Hinds County that we finally get a chance to vote on who our next school board representation is going to be. Now, as I talk to other residents across Hinds County, I've heard this even longer than that. So you're talking about 15, probably 20 years since there has even been a school board election. And so it's so important that we have people on the ballot with various different platforms and ideas and things like that people can actually choose from. And so I'm excited about not only myself, but others having that opportunity to vote who they want to be school board representative. So as I tell people, I am somebody who has spent 17 years in the classroom. And not only have I been in the classroom, but I've also worked in parallel in policy advocacy and organizing. So I have a track record on advocating for policies and issues that are in the best interest of teachers and students. As a matter of fact, I was one of the leaders in the policy effort that led to the largest teacher pay raise in Mississippi's history. And so I'm so excited about that and just looking to do more for educators because we know that when you ask about education and how do we fix the system, how do we transform the system, we have to start at the foundational level, which is making sure that we have great teachers in our classroom. And so that's one of the things I want to make sure that we do because we have teachers that are leaving Hinds County and going to our neighboring school districts. And so what can we do to keep great teachers in Hinds County? And what can we do to keep our students in Hinds County as well? Because they're also leaving Hinds County, going to our neighboring school districts and private schools. And so I'm just, somebody who's been in Hinds County for 11 years, serving as an educator, currently now serving in the nonprofit philanthropy space where I get to help bring organizations and people together and bring resources together to people and organizations. So I'm just excited about this opportunity to help represent Hinds County District 3 on the school board level.
I think another thing that you said something that really stood out to me. So you said we have teachers that are leaving Hinds County School District.
Absolutely.
So just so people know, Hinds County School District is a B as in boy, a B-rated district. It's a B-rated district because we have good talent there. We have good teachers there. If we start losing our good teachers, it's possible our school ratings can go down. And so we need to make sure when we have something that's working, we need to make sure that we're keeping, that we're keeping it going and we're keeping it up. Now, I just went to an education conference this past week, and we were talking about Mississippi Miracle. A lot of people don't know about the Mississippi Miracle, but Mississippi is being studied right now by other states because we have improved our accountability rating to a C level for a lot of failing districts. Right now, we have more C-rated districts than we have had in the past. C is not a great thing. We're going to still try to get on up. And when you're talking about D and F-rated districts, that's a big move. And, with the Mississippi Miracle, it's basically the third grade literacy test. And so years ago, back in 2013, they sat down and they identified why our students were not able to, be successful. And they determined that we needed to have more things surrounding phonics in the lesson plan to make sure that our students can understand. There were a lot of language barriers. But those are the things, and you mentioned policy. Those are the things. That's why we need somebody to understand policy. Because you can go be a teacher for 50 years. That doesn't mean that you understand policy.
Right.
When you have somebody that has experience as a teacher plus policy, you wearing both hats. That makes a huge difference. And so, definitely. Tell us a little bit more about your policy work.
Absolutely. So, when I was in the classroom, I worked in parallel, as I mentioned, in policy, but I served as the president of the Jackson Association of Educators. And so one of the things that we championed a great deal on was, of course, educator pay raise, but not just educator pay raise, we also championed community schools. And for those that are not familiar with what a community school is, a community school serves as the hub for the community. So it doesn't just serve the students, it also serves the community at large. And so what that could possibly look like, just to give you an idea, a community school serve as an academic institution for students, from 8 to 3, but in the evening time it could serve as a job training site for parents. And so it's just a great way to help bridge that gap between communities and schools. So I tell people that I have a son that's nonverbal autistic. And so one of the things that I advocated around is better investment in special education, specifically around autism advocacy, specifically around autism. And so I had a chance to work with a couple of elected officials. Representative Chris Bell was one closely with and putting forth policy, introducing legislation around autism. And so one of the things that we wanted to do was we wanted to get law enforcement personnel, get them trained on autism, how to recognize the signs and how to engage somebody who may be diagnosed with autism, because we read stories all the time about police and how they individuals and how that sometimes is not, or a lot of times it does not end too well. And so when you talk about a child that's diagnosed with autism, specifically those that may be on the lower end of the spectrum, some like my son is nonverbal, and sometimes he's also an eloper. So when you think about a law enforcement telling somebody who has autism to stop or freeze, but because he's diagnosed with autism or she's diagnosed with autism, she may keep going because he or she is an eloper. And so law enforcement personnel have to be able to understand those signs and how to engage with those individuals. And so not only is law enforcement out there in the community, but also our school resource officers. And so I would like to take the time to definitely shout out the Byron Police Department, because I've worked with them and I've introduced this information to them, and they've been very open to having law enforcement personnel trained in how to recognize the signs of autism. And so those are just the things that I've been working on. Like I said, autism legislation, educator pay raise, community schools. Those are some of the things that I'm interested in and been working on. And some of the things I want to work on as a school member is also after school programming. That's one of the things that I talk to parents across Hinds County. One of the things that they mentioned is, what about after school programming? We have our neighboring districts, JPS, Rankin County, Clinton, they all have very robust after school programming, but we don't have it necessarily in a robust and intentional way in Hinds County. And so that's one of the things that I definitely want to advocate for if elected for Hinds County School Board. And not even a school board member, just advocate for this in general, because it's something that's definitely needed, academically as well as for I'll start right there.
So, and you did mention so you talked about after school programs.
Mhm.
Another thing that was brought to my attention is the fact that Hinds County School District does not offer summer school.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a segue. We need to figure out how that could possibly, how that could be done. I think that's very important. Can you tell me a little bit how you feel about the new Inspire formula, so the new way that we fund public education?
So and it's interesting to me because when you say inspire, it's kind of triggering for me, right? Because I would hear inspire, and I had my issues with inspire because, according to Representative Nelson, is that the way that it was originally brought forward, there wasn't there's a whole conversation around funding students and not institutions or funding schools. And so for me, what it looked like was, how do I get this money attached to the students? So if students move from district to district or wherever they're moving, that money could move with the student rather than putting it in the district where it would stay. And so that was one of my biggest critiques around it. On top of that was a trust issue for me, because when I saw, our governor and some charter school, leaders champion it, for me, that it kind of made my ears perk up, and I was a little bit, I just didn't trust it. But I had some good conversations around that. But to your point, there was this conversation around this money being attached to students and whether or not we wanted to keep MAEP the way that it was, which MAEP was a formula that the state leaders came together and said, fund this formula, our kids would be effectively, educated. The problem was this formula was done in late 1990s, and you're talking about 2023, 2024, that MAEP was fully funded, since the early 2000s, and I think only fully funded twice.
Mm-hmm.
So there was really no real metric or track record to say that MAEP didn't in fact work. And so the way the formula is now, so they kind of marry the two, where they have these, where they put the funding toward the students. So for kids that have certain issues, whether it be English as a second language, whether low income, and so they have that, as well as a objective formula. So I think to your question, I think it's good that they kind of married the two, but there's always still more work to get done, But I'm just glad that they came together and they essentially kind of put both bills together to have to kind of marry the two together to kind of get this thing across the finish line.
And with that Inspire, I have a little trauma behind it too. I voted against Inspire 3 times before I eventually voted yes on the 4th time. And the reasons I was voting against it is because, as you said, my concern was that this money is not following students. And so I would be okay if the money would follow the student wherever the student goes. Ultimately, we didn't get that to happen this time, but that's still something that I'm going to champion, as to making sure this money stays with the students. But another concern that I had about this was this money needs to be earmarked. And so if you're saying that, it's going to be, a child that has exceptional education needs, that should be put into a fund to saying this school has to have programming. Mm-hmm. The district should not just have free reign to do whatever it is they want to with the money.
That's right.
Because you're getting that money because you have to educate this child properly, dyslexia, whatever it could be. And so I really wanted to earmark to, go to those certain categories, which when we go back in session, we're going to be having that conversation again, because I saw some things, I'm not going to talk about it much. I saw some things I didn't like that happened with some of the money that was appropriated.
And I would say too, and I'm with you. I think the thing is, I think the money following the student is not necessarily the issue. I think sometimes the issue is when the money follows the student, and if that student returns back to their regular school district, that money not going back to the child. And so there's definitely some working around that needs to take place.
Yeah, and I found something very interesting at this conference. That's why I like going to conferences with people from other parts of the country, because you hear how they do it. They do pretty much the same thing. What happens though is, so if a child leaves a public school and goes to the charter school, the funding follows a student, but guess what? In some others, I can think of which one. I think it's one of the Western states, maybe Arizona. What happens is the money will follow the student, but for the next 2 or 3 years, the state still gives their public school funding
Oh,
to give them time to adjust.
yes.
And so I think like I'll be okay if the money just follow the student, but I think that's a good segue.
Yes.
Because if you got kids leaving, and see, when we look at JPS, for instance, I think they say they had to cut a check of like $13 million to give to the charter schools.
Wow.
When you and they have to cut it all at one time. And so they say what's happening is they cut that check at one time, and it's affecting the operation budget.
That's right.
And so we got to figure out ways. I mean, in my opinion, it can be done, but it needs to be done the right way.
That's right.
So that's my biggest objection to most of this.
And to your point, and kind of bring it back to Hinds County, there are efforts to expand charter schools. There's this idea that if we create competition, that would make the traditional public school do better. And so there's an effort to expand the charter schools for all they would say school choice, beyond mostly you'll see it in JPS or the Delta and things like that. But we have to be very, because the charter school movement could be making its way to Hinds County. And so we have to make sure that we are offering a great educational experience to our students in Hinds County School District, because otherwise there will be these competing institutions. There will be that they will continue to pull away, from our school districts. And so when they have, again, you're talking about school district losing lots and lots of money to our quote unquote competition. So we again have to make sure that Hinds County is offering, a great educational experience. And again, I think that starts at the top of leadership with the school board.
And another thing I found out that I was not happy about is the accountability standards that we hold our charter schools to is not the same as our public schools.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, like you said, they're saying, well, with competition. So if they're saying that if we have charter schools here and they're performing really good, that's going to make the public schools up their game. Well, if we're not holding the charter schools to the same accountability measures, they're going to be underperforming, and they're going to be telling people, sign your kids up to private school.
Right.
That's the spiel they give them. And you take your kids and put them in, and they're not really getting educated. But the thing is, if you're taking public money, if you're taking taxpayer money, you need to be held to the same standard as a public school.
That's right.
If you want to refuse it, then that's fine, but don't, yeah.
And to that point, like, so the charter school, private school, what have you. So you'll see a charter school, and here's the thing that I used to not recognize when I was teaching, in the middle school, traditional public school. So we're in a traditional public school, and we would have a student that would transfer back from the charter school. And two things that I noticed more than probably 9 times out of 10 was either A, that student was probably a behavior challenge at that charter school, or B, that student was behind academically. And so what typically happens is sometimes, and I don't want to say all the charter schools do that, but what happens is in order to improve their accountability rating, or if you see the accountability rating going up, a lot of times they're in a position where they can kind of coach, kind of put the ones out, whatever that looks like, counseling out, put out, discipline out, whatever that looks like. They're able to put those students in a different situation that often makes them have more students that can, excel, so to speak. So just to kind of be blunt about it, the ones that give the behavior problems, put them out. The ones that are academically, put them out. You can keep the ones that are doing well, and that impacts their accountability rating.
They get to keep something else. They get to keep their funding.
There you go.
When they send the kids back to the public school, they
That's
keep
right.
the funding. And so you've gotten, and with the public schools, they have to take them back.
That's right.
The public school cannot say, oh, no, you cannot come back. So they have to take them back.
That's right.
And so that's really a lot that I saw when we looked across the board at states where school choice is working. What they're doing in the states where they're having good things and they're seeing success, we're seeing fairness across the board.
Mm-hmm.
With it, you can't come here and just throw something out there and it's not fair, and just really drain the budget of these institutions. And now something else is so leading into this next thing, and Ms. Brittany, we're gonna get you in just a minute. You're enjoying yourself, ain't you?
Mhm.
This is something else I have a problem with. When we look at schools, we look at school boards. it bothers me when we don't really have accountability.
Mhm.
You know, when we have, I mean, it'll be, if you have a school board and they make up their mind to do something, they're not taking the community's influence. They're going to do basically what it is that they want to do. What can we do? Like, what is your recommendation, besides going out and vote? But what's your recommendation as to how we can make sure that our school board is listening to us when we have concerns?
So one of the things that I've committed myself to is once a month having some type of town hall in a different area across Hinds County. Coming out in front of the people. We have to meet our parents where they are. I know that saying is cliche, but it's true. We have to go out and meet them where they are. And typically what happens is, like, even with the fact of even elections, people didn't know that the school was actually an elected position.
Sure did.
I mean, people. But the thing is, if you're not going out into the community and talking to the people, then you're probably not going to know that. I can tell you, I've talked to numerous people who have told me that they did not even know who their school board person is. And at the same time, like you said, voting is a way to hold school board members accountable. But the problem is, if there's only one school board member on the ballot, then there's no real accountability, right? But I just believe that, as me, somebody who has a background in organizing and advocacy, I'm somebody who is a community builder. I consider myself a community builder, and I don't believe in making decisions or moving on things without the input, without the say-so of the community. And so I believe in the community aspect of it. As I mentioned earlier, one of the policies that I championed was around community schools. So the community thing for me is big. And so for me, that's one thing that I've committed myself to, is actually going out in the community and talking to the people and getting their input. Because even if you go to a school board meeting, you can count on one hand how many people are actually in an actual school board meeting. And a lot of that is because they don't know when school board meetings are or where they're being held. And so if you recognize that, then you should go out and meet the community where they are. And so again, I just committed myself to say, hey, once a month, I'm going to be somewhere, whether it be Byron, Raymond, Terry, Utica. I'm going to be somewhere, once a month, some type of updates or some type of town hall that includes the people.
Absolutely. Look, want to send a shout out to Ms. Donna Owens. Thank you for tuning in. Ms. Mary Bradley just made a comment. She said the Columbus, Ohio School Board is being sued right now because they're refusing to transport the charter schools on their buses. And so they're fighting amongst themselves. And so, I mean, it's just, it's a lot. And I had another thought. I forgot what it was. When you pick up, I sure am. Pick it up for me. I'm picking this. This was a good question. It was a good point. It was so good. It was so good. What was
Well, my concern is how are we going to transform the leadership? I noticed that we are accustomed to what we see. It's customary. So it's like, I've heard the cliche, if it isn't broke, don't fix it. So that really means if you think ideally looking from your visual eyes working well, hey, why do we need to change it? So what would you bring differently to implement to the school board? Now, across the board, I can't agree that a lot of people in Hinds County do not know who their school board members are. But that's due in part to lack of visibility, not knowing those persons or individuals out in their community stating that, hey, I'm your representative. Let me know what your needs are so that they can be better addressed as far as they can have input on what goes on in the schools. Something simple as Black history programs. I know that used to happen on a pretty regular basis, but from what I'm hearing, that's not happening anymore in some of the schools in Hinds County. So just small little tidbit things such as that. How would you transform that leadership, be that vibrant energy that board needs? And that's probably another reason why people don't come, because it's the same rigmarole every time you come. So it's like, what do I go for? I've heard this bill 17 times. Why am I going?
And that's why I'm so excited about, this Steward for Three campaign. There's an energy around the campaign. People are excited. They want to see something different. As I'm out talking to the people and letting them know that I'm running for school board and letting them know what my thoughts and ideas are, people are excited. I'm out there in the community talking to them. And to your point, going out and again talking to them and including them in the decision-making process. I'm really big on social media, so I put information out there. I'm doing videos and just a way to engage the people, not just, the older generation, but the younger generation as well. And so just find ways to involve them, whether it be some type of committee, just some kind of way they can be involved and be engaged. And to your point, you mentioned it. If it's not broken, don't, if it's not broken, don't fix it. But, and here's the thing, Hinds County has a B rating. And on the surface level, when you see the B rating, it looks like everything is all good. And so there's really not a need for those to really feel like they need to do a whole lot, because we typically sometimes look at the B rating and assume that everything's great. But at the same time, you have to look beneath the surface and see that, hey, we're rotating teachers in and out. Okay. We have students that are de-enrolling from our schools. And so I say that not only do we have great educators in Hinds, we also have a great community of parents and community members. And that is what contributes to the B rating. And so we have to continue to engage our community members and let them be a part of the process. And so to your point, what do I bring to it? Again, somebody who looks at the school board not only as a role to just sit there and vote on issues, but a way to how do we bridge community and how do we bring community together to impact policy.
Okay.
Very, very good point. I had another thought, and I forgot the second one. Oh, okay, I remember what it is. So I want to talk about like charter schools. And so when that law was introduced here in Mississippi, the only way that a charter school can come to a community is if the school has a D rating or below, correct?
Correct.
So what they did is another piece to it that people don't know. Charter schools also come if the school board approves it.
Correct.
So even if you can have an A-rated district, if your school board say we want charter school, they can come in. So those are the two ways that charter schools can, can come in. And so we need to make sure that our school board is on board for fighting for public education.
And you said it, there is effort to expand school choice. And like I said, you mostly see it in JPS and you see it in the Mississippi Delta, and we just have to be on high alert. And that's another thing, Brittany, when you was talking about what do I bring, to the school board, what would I bring? Is somebody who's highly engaged in the political process, somebody who's not just in Hinds County. Somebody, I used to always say that the role I played when I was an association leader was I went from the classroom to the Capitol. And so I believe working with our state officials, like Representative Nelson, to really see what policies are being, set forth and what are some things that they're doing there. And so I'm highly engaged in that process. And so with me being engaged, so when I speak on, there's an effort, to expand school choice, out further than where it is now. I'm not just saying that to be saying, I'm saying that because I'm engaged in the process and I know who's at the Capitol trying to write bills, who's they're trying to influence legislation to expand these options, if you will.
And we know, school choice. We know that it's on the way. I mean, it's going to come. It's going to happen. We have to be ahead of that. We have to figure out how we can make it work the best that it's going to work when it gets there. Instead of just saying, "Oh, we're going to ignore it," or "It's never coming," and then next thing you know, it's here, and then all the money leaving the public school going somewhere else. And so we have to, talk about those things. We're talking about, like you say, policy. Most of us up there, we don't have a background in education, so we don't really understand. We rely on y'all to come and tell us, hey, this is a good policy. This is not a good policy. I mean, we found out that one of the charter school organizations are the ones that really helped in the writing of the education funding formula. Mm-hmm. And so we got to make sure that, we are getting ahead of things as they come in. Another thing we've been talking about a lot, which is disappointing that I haven't been hearing this much from our districts, is we've been talking about AI. So artificial intelligence that's coming to the schools. Mm-hmm. We talk about it all the time, how AI is so bad. The kids are putting their assignments in there and it's completing their assignments and all this, of which that's happening. But what we need to be talking about now is we need to be talking about how we can allow our students to use AI as a tool. That's right. Because what they're doing over at Pearl School District is the superintendent came to a hearing we had, and he talked about how they've implemented it within the classroom. how they train the teachers to pick up on when kids are using AI. And so they're using it as a tool because it's here.
That's right.
Nothing is going to stop it. AI is so smart that it can fool anybody. So let's not say, well, we're going to ignore it. So we got to really make sure that we're doing what we have to. Miss Briley just made a good point. She said we had school choice in Mississippi in the 70s after desegregation. Yep, that's it. That's it, Miss Briley. You hit the nail right on the head.
Absolutely right. And it was created, and she's so right about it because the white people didn't want their kids in class with black students, so it created this whole framework around school choice to desegregate. Absolutely.
Open, they would go in, and it was at the point when they were opening up these schools, they wanted kids in these private schools so bad that housewives were there teaching courses. They didn't have any background in education, but they did that. Like, we're going to do that, but that's how bad, they wanted it. And so as we move forward and we start talking about school choice and we start talking about incorporating public funds into not charter, but into private schools, a lot of these private schools were segregationalist academies.
That's right.
So we got to think of, are they going to want that? What's going to happen, especially when we go up to the Mississippi Delta? And I've spoken to representatives up there that are completely opposed to it because they say these are segregationalist academies that are still segregated. And is this something that, so these are things, so these are the conversations. I mean, it's uncomfortable conversations to have, but we got to start having them.
That's right. And on top of that, creating these private schools at the same time trying to use public dollars to do it in the form of school vouchers. And so you hear this conversation around school vouchers, which really is a way to supplement those who can already afford to send their kids to a private school. Somebody who was a low income parent, who's to send their child to a private school, that voucher they give that parent is not enough to cover up. That's not even close enough to send that child to a private school. But what that voucher does do is supplement those who can already afford to send their child to a private school. And so we have to, kind of look beneath. The voucher sounds good, but when you look at how much was given to somebody with a voucher, it's not enough to send somebody with, this low income to a private school.
In some states, they've been actually seeing that when with these school vouchers, private schools have gone up on tuition. So they can make more money when the kids, come into these programs. And so that's something else. I'm gonna tell you something very interesting else that I found out. We were looking at population declines within school districts across the country, not just only here in Mississippi, but we're looking at population declines. Mississippi was included, but we were looking at seeing how the student population was declining from kids either going to private or charter schools. We saw student census declining, but guess what we saw going up? Employment rates at the schools. So they were having less students, but they were hiring more teachers. And some of these, they were hiring more administrative staff. Wow. And we're like, so why, so that's another trend. So, because I just got this because Ms. Donna Owens just said, get an analysis audit to know standard funding from Mississippi from the comparison with other states. So I think that's another thing that we do need to start doing is looking at our budgets for our school districts and figure out where the money's going and do we really need these positions that we're having? Because if we're losing students and if we're closing down schools and things of that sort, I mean, the staff should be decreasing somewhere.
That's right.
I would think. I mean, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, but that's that's what I think. That's what I how I feel about it.
I was gonna say to your point, some people have asked, what is the role of the school board? And to your point, one of the roles of the school board is to vote on the budget. And so I talked something on social media and something about a program or an idea that I had. And somebody asked the question, where are you going to get the money from to do that? Right. And I
saw that. The real talk.
Yeah, that's right. And so a lot of times, to your point, it's oftentimes a matter of priority. Like the money is a lot of times there to do innovative things, but there has to be, it has to be prioritized. And so a lot of times, that's an issue. So when you're talking about going to a school board meeting, which again, the board had, that's what they do is vote on the budget. You have, as a citizen, and that's that communication piece that comes in, when you engage in the public, taking the public and the people's, ideas and, in regards to what should be in or not in the budget.
That's absolutely right. I think we might have a caller calling. Maybe I think we might have a
So
caller.
what is the role of a school board member?
Yes. So various things. One of the number one roles of a school board member or a school board is to hire the superintendent. So that's one of the roles. Another role of a school board is, again, vote on the budget. Another role is to set policy, district level policy. And so those are typically the roles, of the school board. But I often add to it, school board member should be, again, somebody who's an advocate, somebody that is a community builder, somebody who bridges community and school together. But those are the major roles. So
We have a caller. Let's see what's going on. All right, George, you're in the hot seat now.
Oh,
all right, caller, you on there? What can we do for you?
So, just listening to the conversation here, and I'm looking at the report card for Hines County Schools. And as the candidate said, it's kind of interesting when you go in and dissect the report card, because a lot of things can be covered, uncovered when you do that. I'm noticing that the school in the district that's located in Byram is not performing on the same level as some of the other schools.
You talking about Byram Middle School? It's a D. Yeah, it is a D.
Right. And also Gilbert Elementary is but you got Rain Elementary, you got Terry, you got Rain High, you got Utica Elementary, you got Gary Grove Intermediate, that's a B. So my question is, beyond knowledge, as school board members, how do we address these concerns? We have a middle school here that's senior, and we have a elementary school that's C. Because I'm just going to tell you, that's not a good look for the community. When people look to move to areas, the first thing to consider is the school. And if I have a middle school student, I definitely don't want them attending a B-rated school. So as a board member, how do you address that? And enjoying your show, always, I'm going to hang up.
Oh, buddy, we appreciate you. We're finna tackle that question now. Thank you so much for calling.
Yes.
That's the thing, one of the challenges that we're seeing, not just in Hines County, but across, school districts, across the board. Middle school is a struggle area. We're still trying to, work those challenges out. Typically, you'll see, students doing well at the elementary level. High school level, somewhere around that middle school level, there's a challenge. So trying to find a way to connect with particular challenges. Again, it just goes to just being more innovative. More innovative programming, making sure that we have quality teachers. And making sure that we are supporting, because middle school could be a very challenging time. Just in general, being in middle school, kids are trying to find themselves, trying to
puberty.
Exactly. So I think a lot of kind of, or a good bit of that kind of goes into how they perform, academically. So just making sure that we have educators who, quality educators, in place to support that particular population, and not just have them there, but support them. Sometimes we have a tendency to have our teachers, out there, and they're not getting the support that they necessarily always need. And so I think that's one of the ways. But I think a lot of times too is just being innovative around the programming, seeing what those kids like, seeing what they do, provide some type of programming around them. Whether it be after school program.
You said it earlier, after school.
AI, and all these different things. I think at the middle school level is really where you kind of that interest for things like that is there. And I think
What
it's
about
innovative programming.
what about leadership? I think that's a big
Oh, yeah.
key as far as the school's success.
Yes.
And I was just gonna get on there. You took it out of my mouth. So
Mhm.
at Byron Middle School, I got to brag on it. Dr. Arthur Jones is the new principal. He
Yes.
just went there this year. He actually left. He left GRI, Gary Road Intermediate, and has a lot to do with why GRI is a B-rated district. So having the right leadership over there that's going to push, and I'm confident that Dr. Jones is going to get the accountability rating. He's from Yazoo City too. You know, it's just some great people from Yazoo City. So he's a fellow Yazooan. But he's a great guy, but leadership is important.
And that's a good point, because I taught at Gary Road Intermediate for a couple of years, where Dr. Jones was my principal. And so I definitely can speak to, the support that he gives to his educators. And so to your point, you need somebody, because when you talk about, that goes back to what I said earlier about when you're talking about transforming the system, you talk about improving schools, where do you look? You have to look at the nation, at the educators. Do you have quality educators in that building? Do you have quality educators there? Are you providing the kind of support that they need to make sure that their students move successfully throughout the school?
And, I have two sons at Byron Middle School. And since Dr. Jones is there, they say, "Oh, Dr. Jones, he don't play that. He's real tough on us." And so his style of leadership, he's going in because in the past there have been, I'm not gonna say major behavior issues, but getting the kids under control. So he has a structure, Dr. Jones, and he like Joe Clark of Lean on Me. He walked the halls, and he makes sure that, and that's what you have to have. You have to have the structure. And so I think that is, for our school board goals, making sure that when you have an underperforming school, like the caller made a very good point. Overall, we are a B-rated district, but we do have a school with a D rating, one with a C rating. So it's the school board, it's up to the school board to figure out what interventions can be done.
And that goes back to, again, the school board having power to set a budget. So to your point, you look at the middle school level and you see what kind of challenges that they may have, and you advocate, prioritize your budget around providing the kind of support that school needs.
We gave about $800,000 more to Hinds County School District this year, and so I think you get after school programs with $800,000.
That's right.
If you can't, I'll come teach. But those are things that you can definitely do. I think, but that's a very, very, very good point. A very good way to start, looking at attacking that. All right, we're gonna let y'all close it on down.
You doing a good job, Bishop. You came back with the suit on, so you ready. I'm gonna let you close out today.
Look, I came back ready. So I've been sitting there for 2 weeks, all of the building up. But yeah, y'all, it's good to be back. I have missed being here, and I haven't been able to be here for other things, other obligations, but it's good to be back. But we're gonna kick it back over to George Stewart with closing remarks. He's gonna tell y'all why y'all need to go out and vote for him.
And when is he
election?
Yes, indeed. The election is November the 5th, the same as the presidential election. And so, again, I'm George Stewart. I'm running for Hinds County School Board, District 3, and I ask for your support. Again, this is the first time in probably decades that we finally have an actual school board election where people can go out and actually select who they want to represent them. I'm somebody who served as an educator for 17 years in the classroom. I'm still in education, but in a different capacity, but I'm not too far removed from the classroom to know the challenges going on. This time last year, I was in the classroom, so I'm not too far removed. And so I'm somebody who has a track record in advocating for policies that support educators and students. I'm somebody who has lived in Hinds County for over 10 years, somebody who has my own children in Hinds County schools, and somebody who has a vested interest in making sure that Hinds County moves the way it's supposed to move. And I'm somebody who is a community builder. I will not make decisions without the support or without the input of the people. So you have somebody in me, again, who's an educator, who knows policy, who has a track record in advocating for policy, and somebody who is a community builder.
And a parent for the kids in the school.
Right. And a parent, that's right. So on November the 5th, I ask that you vote for George Stewart, 3.
All right, Hand, you take us away. All right, y'all. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. And we will see y'all same place, same time. Will I be here next Saturday?
Yes, he'll be here this Thursday.
I'm
October 3rd. What do you have on your calendar?
It's something I got to do. But look, we'll be here. Somebody will be here. All right.
Y'all, he
Carla.
all over the place.